Well, hello, everybody. My name is Tiffani Bova, and I want to welcome you to Playing to Win Practitioner's Insight. This is show number 4 with my dear friend, Mr. Roger Martin. Welcome, Roger.
It's great to be here for number 4, Tiffani.
Yes, I'm super excited. I feel like this has been this waterfall of learning. And if you haven't seen the other 3, we will post in the chat where you can do that. But this conversation today is about what makes for a great strategist. And if you missed the last episode, there is a difference between a great strategist and someone who executes and plans and sort of organizes that strategy. But I'm going to guess, since Roger is the master, he has some opinions on what makes for a good strategist. And I think a lot of it has to do with this kind of mindset, if I might say so myself. So why don't we start there? What kind of mindset does a good strategist need?
Well, why don't I start, Tiffani, with what kind of mindset do they have to not have? And then, because it sort of sets up, I'll do it in that order. I'll do the what's not a helpful mindset versus what's a helpful mindset, because I think it works slightly better in that order. But a problematic mindset for strategists that unfortunately many of them kind of have is strategy is about my intellectual brilliance, right? Here you go. And why that's problematic is because I think that stops you from having any humility about the thing you can't control, right? And the thing you can't control is customers.
Yep.
Customers will, and you know this, Tiffani, you're the super duper expert on customers and how they behave. You spent your career just all over that subject, and I should ask you, but like, can you be great with customers when you're arrogant about them and look down your nose at them? I don't.
No, I would tell you, I see it all the time, and you see it manifest itself in slowing growth and, unhappy customers and, competitive disruption and M&A. I mean, the result of not having that is the littered businesses that are no longer around. Yes.
Yeah. So if you think it's about how brilliant you are, I just don't think that you're going to be sufficiently humble about customers and humble about what you don't know. So it's not a helpful mindset. And why I point it out is because strategy, from kind of its inception as a field, was always like, the first strategy consulting firm was Boston Consulting Group, and Boston Consulting Group made a habit of recruiting as many Baker scholars as they could, the people who were the top 5% of Harvard Business School class. And so they sort of started out the field with the notion that unless you have a gigantic, enormous brain, you can't do this thing. And so it's unhelpful to me, and it blinds you. So that's mindset don't want. It leads to the mindset don't number 2, which is having a mindset that it's all about data analytics. I can analyze my way to a great strategy, and if I've got a better analysis, it'll be a better strategy. And that's unhelpful, because strategy is a creative act. It's a creative task. It's about inventing something that is not shown in the data today. But the industry, again, the strategy industry and the strategy function are chock-a-block full of people who are great at data analytics. And so they have a hammer, and gosh darn it, everything looks like a nail to them. Their hammer is data analytics, and they're going to use it. And the last one, and again, I think all of these would resonate 100% with you, Tiffani, is it's divorced from operations. So if your mindset is, well, strategy, we have to be separate in a way. It's sort of like being a university, an ivory tower. We have to be away from all the riffraff of all those people who go talk to customers and bash things together and the like. And again, all of that just makes you crummy strategist, because strategy has to be a incredibly practical thing that arises out of operations. The best strategists should be your general managers. If your general managers aren't good strategists, they aren't good general managers. And my story, Tiffany, is I've worked more in my life as a consultant to Procter & Gamble than any other company. And one of the things I admire about Procter & Gamble is they do not have a strategy function, right? Yet they're strategically brilliant company. I think that's why they've been around for 175 years on top of their game. Well, it's partly because general managers are expected to be strategists. So those are the don'ts. It's not about intellectual brilliance. It's not about data analytics. It's not about being separate and from operations.
Do you mind if I interrupt before you
No,
go to the
no,
do's?
not at all.
So
That was a bit of a rant, I think, anyway.
No. But so let me ask you, can companies be successful if the leaders think it's about their intellectual brilliance? They really run the business from data, in their four walls, and they're sort of divorced from the day-to-day operations, right? Not just operations like on a manufacturing plant, but operations meaning just the day-to-day. Can they still be successful as a company?
Blind pigs can find truffles every once in a while. It's not inconceivable that they could be successful for a while. But I would like to think of this. The nice recent case study here is Nike, John Donahue and Nike, right? This absolutely brilliant strategy mind, ex-consultant, takes them over and does all these things that totally piss off the distribution channel, totally piss off their customers, and Nike unfortunately has gone into the tank. The stock has gone into the tank. He's gotten sacked. That would be an example of, I think, the mindset don'ts. A bunch of the things they did with the distribution channel, the people in the distribution, in the go-to-market side, were like, "Are you kidding me?" But they did it anyway, and the results have been just like so fabulously bad. It's truly amazing.
Well, I think that also lends itself to, there's a lot of consultants that, get plopped into CEO roles of big companies because they've been advising, right, or working with those executives. And so the board feels comfortable. They feel like they know the business. But I think in many situations, that kind of person who is very consulting oriented is really divorced from operations, right? Because you can strategically talk about things, but you don't ever own it. You don't ever have to do it. You might have never done it. But it's really good in your ability to sort of see the forest through the trees. But I always believe like it's in the subtlety, it's in the nuance, it's in the hands are dirty, that you've kind of worked your way in and around organizations that look and feel the same, and you bring all that experience forward. I think that lands us to mindset do's, right? So let's go there.
Yep. Well, number one, and I preaching to the converted in you, Tiffany, but it starts with customers. If you start thinking about strategy any other place, it's a wretched idea. So you can say, well, shouldn't it matter our capabilities? Yes, they should. But if you start with, hey, what are we good at? Then you'll go and try and find somebody to do that too. It's like technology searching for a use. If instead you start with customers and you really deeply care about those wants, needs, things they can't even articulate, things that would make them happier, you've got a much better chance of having a great strategy. And as part of this, I was with a client this weekend, and I talked the wonderful A.G. Lafley into zooming in for a little chat, and it was just a reminder about how he's a great strategist, but how deeply he cares about consumers. And he was telling the story of watching moms in Japan baby diaper their babies. And he was sort of illustrating, he was totally into it. He said, well, you know, if you have tape diapers, you've got to hold them down with one hand while you try and put the tape diaper on the other. But then I watched pull-up diapers where all they have to do is pull the one off and have them step into the new one. There's no fighting with the kid to keep them down. And he was just going on with this incredible sense of enthusiasm. And I was like, yeah, AG was an awesome strategist. And one of the reasons is it starts for him, everything starts with the customer.
Yeah, and within that statement you made, it's also the small data, the small insights. You know, our friend Martin Lindstrom wrote a great book called Small Data, where he went and visited houses and watched people, you know, in how they use the products of competing companies and it was in some random no place that he did a lot of this and came up with even, you know, the way that the laundry detergent pours and the way you open it, like, and those were all that was small data. So something about just watching the customer use your product, coming back and having a different appreciation. I totally agree with starting with the customers. All right, next up.
Strategy involves dealing with a complex adaptive system. So it's not dealing with a machine where you can analyze the machine and know how it works. No, it's an adaptive system. It's complex. You do this with the distribution channel. It has this effect, you think, but it might not. And the competitor comes in here. If you sort of think you can analyze it perfectly and understand it perfectly, you're just wrong. All you can do is tweak it. You can say, what if we did this? What impact would we have? And then watch and then adjust. That's why, you know, you're trying to get the perfect strategy because you understand the situation perfectly. And then you say, since it's perfect, I don't have to think about it or watch it at all. That's where people make mistakes. You have to be humble about the world you're dealing with, and that's a complex system, not some kind of machine-like thing you can understand.
Yeah, and I think now technology allows that kind of the adaptability and the responsiveness and the real time. Even though and I would argue, I wonder now if it's about power of data analytics. I would argue it is about data analytics now because now so many companies have it as much as it's how you use that data to make different decisions. When you use it, how you use it, where you use it, that's that sort of adaptive side of it. But at least in my mind, I don't want people to hear me, at least anyway, say that you shouldn't think about data analytics or it's not important. It's that it is one of those things you're looking at. Fair?
And again, if I want to use, since we're on the topic, AG Lafley was, during his time at P&G, probably the biggest data hound in the company. He wanted the numbers on everything and analyzed everything. But what he said is, data can never be more than an aid to your judgment. Right. And I love the way he said it. So he didn't disparage data and data analytics. In fact, he was a voracious consumer of it. But in the end, he said, that can aid my judgment, not make my decisions. And that's where people go awry. They think data can make their decisions. The data said this, so I will do that. No, the data said this, so I better think about that and think about what does that mean. Which in part gets you to the third one here on the list, which is the mindset has to be it's about inventing the future, right? So all great strategies, in my view, influence the current to create a new that doesn't exist today. So you have to be in the invention business, not the projection of the past into the future. You can have a mediocre strategy doing that, but you will never have a great strategy unless you take actions that make the future different. And this is why I've always liked the Steve Jobsian thing, which is what was his role on the planet was to dent the universe, right? He was going to make an impact on it. He was going to change it, and that's the mindset you have to have.
And I think that, ultimately, look, my last book was Experience Mindset. I focused on mindset on purpose. And it was really from a conversation I had with Liz Wiseman, whom we both know very well, right? One of our fellow Thinkers 50, and has written amazing books. And I was having a conversation with her about the balance between customers and employees, and what does that actually mean, from a pure, standpoint of success, if you will. And so, ultimately, it was that she cautioned me to say, if you're going to try to explain this to people and they think they have to have and create a new role, you're going to have a problem.
Okay.
You really need to get people to think, I have to change my mindset.
Yeah.
That it can't be a role or someone that's a leader and they have the greatest influence, that you want people to go, hold on a second, almost like what you just said about data. I have that as a data point. What am I going to do different? And so my ask was that if you are going to start with customers, and whatever decision you make because of what you heard with customers, let's just pick the diaper example you gave, right? If you're going to say our customers want the pull-ons versus the tape for this reason, and so that's what we're going to do. And then you don't go, hold on, how does that change manufacturing? How does that change what our employees have to do in order to work on pull-up diapers versus tape diapers? Like how, what's the people impact to the decision from a customer? And that's where I found companies made the wrong decisions, right? Because they started with the customer, they died on the hill of the customer centricity, it's all about the customer focus. We are the most customer obsessed, like whatever you want to say, but you have to be equally obsessed about your employees, right? Because otherwise you're out of balance.
I agree. And again, it goes to that point we've talked about before in this series of the integrated nature of those choices.
Yep.
Customer choice that is not integrated with our people choices, our manufacturing choices, our go-to-market choices, whatever it's going to die. It's going to die alone because it wasn't integrated into the other choices. And that's, that takes a little more thinking work, right? It is easier to say, oh, let's just do this thing over here. Let's do that thing over there. But if you say, I got to think about how that thing and that thing actually do or do not work together. And if you don't, bad things are going to happen.
Well, I know that we were showing that slide of what makes great strategists, and you had requisite skills was the third sort of section. But, I would say that with everything coming at us, that there is no shortage of data. Now you have analytics. Now you have agentic AI. Now you have LLMs. Like, you have a lot of things that are giving you inputs along the way. And I feel like, with the skills that you're going to, mention, you have qualitative appreciation, dialogue, and juggling more balls.
Yeah.
I almost would add that this constant, like, becoming more of a constant learner of reskilling and upskilling, because the things you need now to do what we just talked about, right? Start with the customer. So go, well, what does that mean? How do I do that? What tools do I use? I mean, we could all get on a plane and go physically sit with them, but we know that doesn't necessarily scale, and nor do you maybe need to do that. But adaptive systems, is it new technology systems and tools, CRM? Is it ERP? What is it? And then inventing the future is really like being able to really think out. I feel like that reskill, upskill now is more important than ever.
I do, and again, this is where there's been a few books that have come along that have really had an influence. The Carol Dweck growth mindset has for that reason, because you've just been espousing for the last minute a pure growth mindset, right? Which is, I got to just keep getting better and better and better at whatever I'm doing, which again is contrary to it's all about my intellectual brilliance, right? What she says in the book, basically, if you're told, oh, you're so brilliant, you won't try and get better. You'll say, I'm there kind of already, as opposed to what you said, which is nobody's there already, and they're foolish if they think so. But I think it's something that I just encourage people to learn to love that, Like if you think that's a chore, how many of us do chores first? No, we sort of do chores last.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so learn to love it, and anybody can learn to love sort of reskilling, upskilling, and the like, and you will be more successful. You sure as heck will be, a better strategist, no question.
Well, yeah, the quote, in the expert's mind, there are limited possibilities. In the beginner's mind, there are many, right? I mean, if I always say when I'm in front of, clients, where I'm on stage and I'm talking and I'm up there for 40 or 45 minutes and I'm talking about all these things. My very first slide is that quote. It's a proverb, Japanese proverb. And
That's what it is. Japanese. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yep. So, and I would say that I ask them, I say, my only ask of you in the next 45 minutes is get one thing that opens your mind to have this beginner's mind, right? This beginner's mind of, I'm going to try to do it differently. I hadn't thought about that. What will change because of what I heard? But if you walk out of this 45 minutes later, you took no notes and you got nothing in that beginner's mind, then it was a waste of 45 minutes. Like,
Yep.
right? And so if they just take one thing, but it is sitting in being comfortable, being uncomfortable, the very Whitney Johnson, right, on that S curve of, as you're going through that growth, I've just rattled off a lot, right? You have Carol DeWitt, growth mindset. You've got Whitney Johnson on the S curve. You've got, Playing to Win with Roger. There are lots of books out there. Thank you. But I would say that it requires us all to have that willingness and openness. And if you're listening to this, conversation with Roger, that's a great step, right? Because you're making the time, you're setting aside, try to keep these so that it's on a walk or on a drive, so you can listen to it and hear it and watch it and take one note, right? And write one thing down, because without the right mindset, anything we talked about in the previous, 3 episodes and this one, it just kind of, you'll remember it one day and go, oh yeah, I remember when I heard that from Roger, I heard that from Tiffani, and I've done nothing. And so, I think that's the trick here.
Yeah, I think so. And as I say, it goes back to the don'ts, right? The mindset don'ts. If you think it's about your intellectual brilliance, you just won't do that. If you think I can be in an ivory tower and I'm divorced from the world, you're not going to do that. If you think it's about one tool, data analytics, you aren't going to pick up other tools. So I think you've summarized it very well, Tiffani, and it links back to what we've talked about throughout this. You can decide to be a great strategist. Lots of people sort of say, oh, XYZ is a natural strategist. And they'll often say that about AG, because he was such a great strategist. And I say, I can guarantee you AG is not a natural strategist. And they're like, whoa, I thought you really liked AG and everything. I said, no, here's the deal. I interviewed him for a day once for another project where he went back to the very start of his career. And he was in the Navy for 5 years before he went to Harvard Business School, before he went to Procter & Gamble. And he talked me through what he was doing. He was in naval logistics. And he talked me through what he was doing there. And he was being a strategist then. He was practicing. He was trying things, experimenting, failing sometimes, succeeding other times. And I just said, by the time he got to be CEO of Procter, he had 25 years of practice on strategy. So he looked like a natural strategist. No, he was an unbelievably practiced and skilled strategist. That wasn't natural. That was acquired skill. And that's what I would say to anybody. Don't act as if I'm an operational guy or gal. No. You just haven't practiced enough.
Yeah. And I think that's a great action for us to end on, Roger, because, at the end of the day, the goal of asking Roger to do this with me and for us to have these conversations, selfishly, I'd love hanging out with Roger, but, more from a giving standpoint of, I remember when he and I first met and I read Playing to Win, and it really shaped how I wrote Growth IQ and what I thought about it. And so I always say that I'm constantly trying to learn and get better. And am I always right? Absolutely not. But if you're starting on your career and you want to become a better strategist and you want to move up in the organization, it is a practice and learn skill that will take time, and you will have to get really comfortable with failing. But surround yourself with good people and ask for feedback all the time. And I think you'll be well on your way. What do you think, Roger?
I couldn't agree more. I think that's a great way to summarize this. The first four, actually, it's a great way to summarize.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us on the 4th episode of Playing to Win Practitioners Insights. I'm Tiffani Bova.
I'm Roger Martin.
And thank you, guys. We'll see you again next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.